matchup with 4-color Death Shadow versus Pure Steel Paladin should be, at the very least, quick.
Todd wanted me to agree with him there. For
yes,
the record,
I
yeah.
did.
Then he moved
but
on.
you're like, oh, but Goose is occasionally like a death threat shaman.
I don't believe in fun. I can't just let you say things.
Yes, you can. That's your job. That's literally your whole job.
Seth Manfield on the play. Flooded Strand go. Like some kind of control deck.
Just
but that's not what's here.
He's just disguising it. Don't worry.
Alexander Conn's going to cycle a Street Wraith to 18. Here's Once Upon a Time. He's putting it all out there. Listen, this is what I'm doing.
Man, I bet Seth really, really hopes that Conn just deals himself 8 total damage this turn and plays a 1/1 Death Shadow. Just because if he makes him discard a card or kills his Pure Steel Paladin, it's going to be so bad.
Is there any fancy business going on in Manfield's deck?
It's chicken scratch.
Does this deck ever get upgrades?
Well, do you count Sigil of Distinction as an upgrade?
I don't.
What about Reverse Engineer? That's a hot one.
It's got 1 Monastery Mentor. Am I reading that right?
Does have 1 Monastery Mentor. You can check out all these deck lists that we have on screen right now at our Cardboard Live extension. Click that.
Well, let's take a look at what's going on in the hand. Looks like we'll have an opportunity to do that. See a Mishra's Bauble for Conn. Pluto Delta fetched, going down to 13 for Watery Grave. Thoughtseize, we see a hand of Windswept Heath, Double Shram. Some kind of blue card?
It's probably Retract, but it could be Repeal, one of the alternate printings of it. But
is it Ongoing Investigation? It's a long title.
Maybe Reverse Engineer.
Reverse Engineer, that's the one.
Yeah, so there are a few really powerful blue spells in Seth Manfield's deck. Reverse Engineer is basically blue, draw 3 cards, which is pretty damn powerful if you have a bunch of those 0-mana artifacts. He has 2 copies of SRAM, which means that this Thoughtseize can't cut him off of that. I wouldn't actually be surprised here if Conn just takes the Paradise Mantle and hopes that that cuts Seth Manfield off for a turn. But he's going to go for one of the 2 copies of SRAM, try to dodge 1 turn, and hope Seth bricks off of a bunch of draws here.
So 1 SRAM down. Manfield will fetch to 19 for a tapped Hollow Fountain.
Okay, I'm in. Here we go. All right, rooting for Seth. Let's have a big combo turn, okay? I'm sick of watching all these Oko turns.
Yeah, if it's going to be a long turn, I want the game to end.
Oh, it will. Well, no, it's like, no, it might not.
It pretty much ends. Get Pure Steel Paladin out there, equip all your +0/+3s to it. You got yourself like a 2/11.
He has a Grape Shot. Let's just kill him a Grape Shot.
Well, yeah, but hook up the equipment first.
All right.
Here's that Windswept Heath. Fetches up another Hollowed Fountain, down to 16.
Interesting he would fetch a Hollowed Fountain here instead of a Plains.
Double blue for Reverse Engineer.
It's true. That's fair. Good point.
There's the Mantle. Draw 1 card.
Any more Cheerios? There we go. Zip zop. Pulling up them sleeves. What he really needs is a Mox Opal and a Retract so he can kind of do it all over and over again. That is the hope. But even if he just plays like 3 or 4 artifacts, draw some cards, he gets to untap and cast Reverse Engineer and draw 3. So that's pretty good too.
So I want a Quarter Shield, Spider Silk Net. 0-mana card with a relevant text box, except it says equip on it. So 3 equipment, and looks like Manfield's passing from there. Conn's going to take a look at the top card of Manfield's library with the Bobble. He took 1 SRAM with a discard spell. We'll see if he has a removal spell for this one.
You would think so. Death Shadow does play quite a few between Fatal Push, Drown in the Lock, Dismember. But last turn, he did just kind of spin his wheels and cycle a bit. So there's a chance that he's a bit flooded. We'll just have to wait and see how the rest of the game plays out.
Shadow certainly has some of those hands where it could just be anything, right?
Right.
It's going to be Thoughtseize. We see that Reverse Engineer, and now Grape Shot and Pure Steel Paladin picked up.
Well, if he doesn't kill the SRAM, and he doesn't take the Pure Steel Paladin, could just die next turn. The Grape Shot is actually a pretty awesome take if he chooses it, simply because Seth can no longer win via combo. Has to actually hardcore mode it with the creatures and the equipment, which is pretty tough to do because most of the equipment only buffs toughness.
Conn's going to go for that reverse engineer.
Draw 3 may look pretty scary from his point of view, and he also may not know there's only one copy of Grape Shot in the main deck. His life total is getting pretty low, though, so he's going to need to either put some pressure on the table with a Gurmag Angler or Death Shadow, or maybe just kill this Fram with a removal spell, perhaps.
Looks like he'll be cracking a Verdant Catacombs and casting a Death Shadow. Overgrown Tomb is the land fetched up. 8 is the new life total. We'll see what Manfield can pick up. He's not looking at a combo, but just any 0-mana artifact here means he gets to deploy the Paladin and get 2 fresh looks.
Right. If he draws a land or another creature, might be in a little trouble here. But his life total is still relatively high. That Death Shadow is, currently a 5/5. Not too threatening considering his life total is 16. But that can change in a hurry, certainly. Because of the Pure Steel Paladin's Metalcraft ability, it can actually just suit up one of the creatures with all 3 equipment or spread them around however he wants because all the equip cost 0. And that can also give him access to red mana this turn via that Paradise Mantle.
So there is Pure Steel Paladin. Going to be some equipping there for 0, like you said. The Metalcraft is live. SRAM now wearing 3 equipment, which gives it like +0/+5 and Birds of Paradise.
Great.
I guess more of a Utopia tree. It doesn't fly. A mighty 2/7 or whatever.
Very curious what Seth drew for turn. It may have been a land. He may want to sandbag it to kind of disguise what it was. Could have been another creature. I feel like if it was Reverse Engineer or any of the 0-mana artifacts, would have just played them.
Well, we'll find out pretty quick. Here's Inquisition of Kozilek from Conn.
Well,
Manfield's hanging out here. He can make a mana of any color.
he may have drawn Repeal. Oh, Noxious Revival.
Yeah.
That makes sense. He's going to let it resolve, though, because he knows if the Grape Shot gets taken, he has the hard combo. And he has the Noxious Revival to target the Grape Shot later on. So, no reason to burn either right now. And that's one thing I didn't actually see in his deck list when I was glancing at it, was that Noxious Revival. So, pretty awesome that he does have the ability to combo still, even though that Grape Shot is gone.
So Grape Shot is the take. Just Noxious Revival left over.
He's just reading them. Because, no, dude, it's just toughness. Just toughness.
Seeing if his Shadow can actually attack, or how much more damage he has to deal to himself.
Yeah. Has to shock himself down to 6 to be able to attack through it, I believe. Make it a 7/7. But he'll be at 6, facing down 4 power.
Yeah, you can't
That's
just die.
Right.
Just get attacked by 2/2s to death.
Yeah, upkeep. Noxious Revival targeting the Grape Shot. Draw for turn. Grape Shot for 2. Attack for 6. Oh, your creatures have to attack. Does any of the equipment give it Vigilance? Does the Quarter Shield give it Vigilance? Who knows?
There's no way of knowing. Shock on a Blood Crypt. Conn to 6, and he'll pass the turn. No attacks with the Shadow.
These cards are not usually played for their text box, rather their casting cost. Xerox, Cheerios, whatever you want to call
I
it.
think there's something in the deck that gives something Vigilance somehow.
I think it's one of the equipment.
Yeah.
I think it might actually be a Quarter Shield, and the Cathar Shield is the same thing but doesn't give Vigilance.
I think Spire Silk Net gives you reach, and the other ones either do something or they don't. Here's a repeal on the Spire Silk Net. That'll draw 1 card.
Yeah, Spider Silk Net does give reach. It's +0/+2 in reach. I know that because I actually played it in Limited on occasion when my deck was really bad.
Right, Quarter Shield gives you Vigilance.
It would have been lethal if you attacked. Don't you?
See, this one showed up in your Scars of Mirrodin deck sometimes because it has the text box is artifact.
Oh, right, yeah. Got to turn on Metalcraft.
It's no Golden Urn, but, you know, it is an artifact.
I think Seth, if Conn has nothing, Seth might have it wrapped up this turn. It looks like he has Mox Opal and found a Retract. That'll let him draw a ton of cards. Right now the Storm counts at 2. Mox Opal's 3. He's very close to just casting a lethal Grape Shot. Even though it's in the graveyard, he does have that Noxious Revival.
Yeah, Retract's just huge with just 2 unchecked Paladin SRAM combo here. So the Opal's going to tap for the mana to cast Retract. It's going to pick up 3 equipment and a Mox Opal. Storm currently at 3.
Looks like there's a Stubborn Denial from Conn. That could be enough to stall the turnout right now. I believe Seth only with that 1 card in hand, and it's just Noxious Revival, which puts it on top of the deck, notably, and not back in your hand.
Stubborn Denial is good, but Conn's going to need to find a way to make a profitable attack pretty soon here. Minimally, if Manfield really wants the action, he could use that Noxious Revival just to get that Retract back.
Yeah, that is going to leave him without the ability to Grape Shot anymore, though, which is potentially problematic. Going to need to do the damage manually.
At some point, he might just be able to cast 5 2/2s, right?
Oh, for sure. Once you draw your whole deck, you actually, with Retract, you generate a basically free mana whenever you cast Retract because it bounces the Mox Opal. But you need the additional Mox Opal to turn into basically Lotus Petals to be able to cast those creatures all at the same time. But
playing a crack of a Nurturing Peatland for Conn.
Digging for something. Just some piece of interaction here.
And his interaction's been okay so far. I think that the standout was the Stubborn Denial on the Retract.
Yep. I mean, that basically prevented a draw 8 or draw 6, but the draw 6 would have resulted in a draw 20. So
right.
Whenever you have 2 of these SRAM/Pure Steel Paladins up, it's very, very tough to beat if they have any of the 0-mana artifacts, which is very likely they find a second one.
7/7 Shadow rumbles across. Looks like Manfield will take that. We'll see if anything happens before damage.
Maybe blocking with SRAM, but we'll just have to get clarification.
Dismember on the Pure Steel Paladin, and it's going to cost 2 life. Conn to 4.
Well, he's going to deal a non-lethal amount of damage to Seth, and with the Noxious Revival in hand, all he has to do is cast it on upkeep, targeting Grape Shot, draw for turn, attack for 2 with the SRAM, tap it for red mana after combat, and then cast a Grape Shot.
Yeah, the attack put Manfield to 7. That's more than enough life for that Noxious Revival. And there you go. Seth Manfield ends up doing it kind of the hard way.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually pretty impressive considering the Pure Steel Paladin deck just got ripped apart in the early turns. Discard spell, Stubborn Denial. You know, no removal spells from Conn, and the double creature, or actually triple creature from Manfield, certainly playing a part. But definitely an impressive win from the Pure Steel Paladin side considering the high amount of interaction from Conn.
So players reaching further sideboards. For Alexander Conn on the 4-color Shadow side of things, he has 2 Assassin's Trophy, 2 Collective Brutality, 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Mystical Dispute, 2 Veil of Summer, an Oko Thief of Crowns, a Plague Engineer, and a Yixlid Jailer.
Tell you what, one of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of this Pure Steel Paladin deck in general, the card Damping Sphere seems pretty good against it. And Damping Sphere, since it hits Tron lands, Storm, and a lot of other decks in the format, it's one of the more highly played sideboard cards. I do expect Conn to bring that in here. Any creature removal like Assassin's Trophy and Collective Brutality, those seem okay. The Brutality potentially going to miss every now and then from the discard perspective because Seth doesn't have a ton of instant sorceries. Just has Retract, Repeal, 1 Grape Shot, 1 Noxious, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, a combination of not a lot of hits with the Duress and
and
sorcery speed on the removal for the creature.
Right. So it's not the best thing in the world, but it might come in just for that high density of interaction. And then, of course, if you want to be really interactive, Oko is probably one of your better bets.
All right, for Seth Manfield, sideboard a little streamlined here. 4 Burnt and Forged Tenders, 3 Path to Exile, 2 more Monastery Mentor. There's 1 in the main deck as well. 2 Mystical Dispute, 2 Spell Pierce, a Disenchant, and a Hurkyl's Recall.
So I actually really like the idea of Monastery Mentor in general, especially when your opponent definitely has a ton of interaction, but also might have something like Surgical Extraction. I think Monastery Mentor is a great sideboard card for this archetype. I love the one main deck too, and the 2 in the sideboard just gives you that alternate angle of attack. Because a lot of times you can just go Monastery Mentor on turn 3, and then just play 3 artifacts and make 3 things.
Yeah, that's something that one of my favorite Legacy decks does.
Yeah.
Bomberman.
Bomberman. Why do you call it Bomberman?
Because of Ariok Salvagers.
Right, but why not Bomberman?
Because there's a B.
Good point. Moving on. The sideboard doesn't seem that good for this matchup. Seth might bring in Path to Exile just to buy himself some time and also to help make Summon and Denial a bit worse. But Path to Exile is one of those cards where if you bring it in and you draw it, it's going to mess it up when you actually get the combo. That happens a lot. People over sideboard, bring in too many cards, cut too many combo pieces, and makes your deck a lot less consistent. I'm always under the impression that if you don't know how to sideboard in a given match, it is much better to just play your main deck configuration. Especially if you're a linear or combo deck.
Yeah. Same 60. That's what Patrick Sullivan likes
no
to say
changes.
a lot. Yeah.
Why? That's what I say a lot.
Don't mess with success.
Yeah. When I made the finals of that Magic Online PTQ with Mono Green Devotion and Pioneer, I believe I did not sideboard more than I sideboarded.
Nice.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I won a lot of matches too.
Were Nykthos in your sideboard? No. That's all in the main deck.
Oh, I have 4 copies of the Centaur Healer thing, the Nightly's Disciple. Oh, I'm not playing Shred. I don't want that. Got 3 copies of Scavenging Ooze. Well, not playing this graveyard deck. Don't want that.
All right, so we're playing 14 rounds of Swiss this weekend and then cutting to
our
top 4. And we got tons more Magic content over on our YouTube page. You can check out archives for Versus Live, Commander Versus, Flashback, Best of SCG Tour, and more. Plenty of ways to get more Todd Anderson, honestly.
Right, and we also post all of our matches from every event as like a, not a VOD, but basically a VOD. So and they're archived all on our YouTube page in a nice little tight package, so you can look for, hey, SCG Columbus, I was at that event. One of my friends was on camera. You can go back and check it out. But the Versus Live VODs are on there too, as well as Commander Versus. Those are both filmed live on twitch.tv/Star City Games, but you can check them out if you aren't able to watch them live at youtube.com/Star City Games.
And we would really appreciate it if you would subscribe.
Hit that bell. Cost you nothing. $0.
$0.
Love me a good $0 cost, you know.
Speaking of 0 costs, Mistra's Bobble.
I should have said 0 cost. It says $0 cost.
Yeah, Mistra's Bobble does not cost $0.
Yeah, it costs way more than $0.
But it costs 0 mana.
Don't quote me on this, but I think it might be the most expensive uncommon in Modern.
You're going to make me think about that. I'm going to choose.
Okay, how about this? How about this? Top 5.
Sure. All right, we'll take it.
There, I got it. Look, I'll just say the safety one.
All right.
Top 5 uncommons in Modern, cost-wise.
There's a couple different ways to utilize a turn 1 Mistra's Bobble. We'll see what Conn goes for. So he fetches Watery Grave down to 17 before using it, and is actually going to look at Manfield's hand with Inquisition, leaving the Bobble up. So he has plans for that later, I suppose.
Yeah, sometimes you use it to look at the top of your deck before you fetch. A lot of times you do that if you have a shock land also. So you have the choice between one or the other, and you can kind of sculpt the top card of your deck. In a lot of ways, the Mistra's Bauble in that regard plays like a Preordain, which is really interesting.
All right, so this Inquisition is going to show a hand of Grape Shot, a Quarter Shield, Pure Steel Paladin, Retract, Reverse Engineer, Mox Opal, Hallowed Fountain.
Yeah, I think here you just always attack the creatures, especially if you can tag them before they're able to come down and draw any cards. Don't quote me on this. I believe SRAM is when you cast.
Yes.
But I think Pure Steel Paladin is when it enters the battlefield.
I believe that's the case.
But who knows? Templating, am I right? See, I just want consistency.
The cards are from very different eras.
Right. But they're both artifact sets, and they both do roughly the same thing. I feel like you could just make them do the same thing-ish. They literally both do like the same thing.
Sure, but SRAM is intentionally, I think, powered up, being templated differently. Auras are really weak, dude. You gotta do something to make people want to play auras.
I think SRAM would be just as good if it was enters the battlefield instead of cast.
I played some SRAM in that standard format, and I disagree with you.
Who plays counterspells?
It wasn't counter spells; it's removal spells. They really get you. Yeah.
On the auras?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, got to make sure those spider silk nets are good. Sorry. I was thinking it was a spider umbra? Spider totem?
Yeah, Spider Umbra is
Yeah.
totem armor is the key word.
Got to make that one better for the Bogles folk.
So Manfield drew and played Windswept Heath, and now in Thoughtseize for Conn's. Gonna take a look, take that grape shot, and leave the rest of the hand that he knew behind.
All right.
And Fetch Shock for a 1/1 Death Shadow.
2 games in a row where Conn goes discard into discard shadow on turn 2. That's always the ideal start for Death Shadow, and see if Manfield can overcome it this time. The Grape Shot in the graveyard, he is going to need the Noxious Revival to get it back to actually combo kill, but it's not that hard to do once you get the engine revving. That's why you play 1 Noxious Revival and 1 Grape Shot, because the Grape Shot's the kill spell, right? But the Noxious Revival has a lot of applications in the deck alongside something like Retract. Just because putting the Retract back on top means it's basically just another Retract, so you get to play 5.
Someone was asking on Twitter, if you got to just change your starting life total with Death Shadow to a number between 1 and 20, just going into a tournament, which number would you pick?
Probably like 18 or 17. Because you want some amount of life to be able to cast Thoughtseize and stuff.
Yeah, your deck's still the same, too, so your Street Wraiths, you got to be able to do that.
If you could change your deck,
we have a completely, let's not go that deep.
We have a completely different
You would just do
story.
like 5.
Yeah. I think more often, at least when I played Grixis Shadow, I was playing the more control-y one with like Snapcaster and Kolaghan's Command. It's a lot more long game where your life total actually mattered more as far as being higher.
Right. Had some 3-mana Planeswalkers, you know.
But in the Teamer Battle Rage era, this is, I think it would definitely behoove the Death Shadow players to start at like 17. Because a lot of times it's just not being able to cast Death Shadow on 2 because you can't deal yourself 8 damage. You can only deal yourself about 6 or 7 with Fetch Shock. Sometimes you draw Inquisition instead of Thoughtseize, you know. Sometimes you don't draw Street Wraith. Then you're at 15 on turn 2 and you're just like, what am I doing with my life? It ain't casting Death Shadow, that's for sure.
So that Hallowed Fountain tapped was the turn 2 from Manfield. Conn's going to Fetch and Shock. Now he has the full Sultai spread, Breeding Pool, Overgrown Tomb, Watery Grave, down to 9. An attack for 4.
A perfect mana strategy.
It's perfect.
It is perfect. Fetch all 3 of your colors in your 3-color deck. Too bad he's playing 4.
You suppose there's an Oko forthcoming?
Perhaps. Or he just wanted to Fetch Shock so that he dealt himself max damage for Death Shadow.
Often will be the case. So just an attack for 4, Manfield to 15. Go back Manfield's way. He's got some gunk in the hand.
Yeah, and he doesn't have like Serum Visions or anything to really sculpt his draw. Just has that really powerful Reverse Engineer, but you do need some artifacts already on the battlefield to do it. Looks like that's what he's going to go for this turn, just play a couple of these artifacts out, cast this Reverse Engineer, draw 3, and hope that he has a really explosive follow-up turn.
So there's an attempt at the Reverse Engineer. Stubborn Denial. No thank you, says Conn.
Yeah, if he's unable to draw another Reverse Engineer, or if he's unable to draw another one of those creatures, like the Pure Steel Paladin or the SRAM, this game might be over next turn.
Well, looks like the other 2 tables are going to Game 3. We'll see if this one goes that way as well. Conn in a pretty commanding position. Nurturing Peatlands, land number 4. Deplores Tarmogoyf. Death Shadow up to a 5/5. Manfield down to 10. Goyf's pretty big, huh? What we got? Creature, instant, sorcery, land, artifact.
You know what we do got? We got that Tarmogoyf coming. You can bet. There it is. 5/6, my guess. I see it in artifact. Oh, never mind.
That kind of confirms 5/6, yeah. I guess the peatland means it could have been a 4 and it'd still be lethal.
Yeah.
Just on the table. But Seth Manfield's seen enough. Really needed that reverse engineer to resolve.
It's kind of a goldfish. Yeah, kind of a goldfish. And if Seth doesn't draw the creature there, the game's basically over.
So what we do in these team events, try to bring you the most Magic possible. We tend to hold matches just to make sure we can have things not end off camera. Hillary Dwyer and Zach Boblit have been waiting to play. We're going to go ahead and watch game number 3 of Infect versus Simic Titan.
At the very least, this game should be pretty quick one way or the other. The Infect deck is very good at striking down these linear decks that don't have a lot of interaction.
Well, you got a classic line about Infect, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Win or lose, you always get lunch.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Right, Dwyer on the play. Once Upon a Time is where she will start.
Once Upon a Time and Oko both seem like significant upgrades for Infect. I know that most of my losses when playing Infect came of just not drawing the creatures. And being able to find Inkmoth Nexus or one of those Infect creatures just seems so good.
Definitely. Wooded Foothills was the find. Dwyer will fetch. We'll see if it's a forest or a breeding pool, but Noble Hierarchy is coming off of it. Looks like it's going to be breeding pool. Dwyer to 17.
Once Upon a Time cards got put on backwards, seems.
That'll happen.
Mm-hmm. Both players on breeding pool strategies. Breeding pool getting quite the workout this weekend. Wonder what card could have been printed in the last few months that really wants you to play Simic.
Unclear. Oh, wait.
Ice Fang Coatl. That's the one. That's the one.
Growth Spiral.
People are complaining about the power level of, like, Modern Horizons for a while. Shouldn't have done that. It gets worse. Don't worry. It's fine.
Arboreal Grazer off of the breeding pool. Boblet to 18. Puts in a Talaria West off of the Grazer.
Gotta say, you're probably not going to get to see too much of it this game. I love the Simic Titan decks. Love them. I just love the idea of them just completely changing how your deck operates. But here, Boblet is dead.
Blighted Agent leaving up Pendelhaven.
Boblet's so dead. I don't know any card in Dwyer's hand.
Not even the mighty Arboreal Grazer can save you from the Blighted Agent.
You know, I was going to make some point about how good Arboreal Grazer was at blocking the Infect creatures except Blighted Agent. I didn't quite get there. And also, if she had played one of the other ones, I would have been like, oh, wow, Arboreal Grazer putting in serious work. Sorry about your face, bro.
Sakura Tribe Elder, also not known for blocking Blighted Agent, as nobody is. Guess Merfolk Trickster maybe is known for that.
Interestingly enough, a lot of these Infect decks now completely moved away from Becomements. So something like Bajuka Bog, not really that effective out of Boblet's sideboard or hand. I believe he had access to it this turn, but you know, could just be could just be a sequence of the +4/+4s, but scale up seems like a nice one. An attack here for just 3, though. See if Dwyer has any follow-ups.
Looks like there's at least a second Blighted Agent in hand. Not the most exciting thing.
Yeah, Dwyer might have pump spells like Blossoming Defense or something and just not want to burn them in case there's some Oko plus or something that she wants to protect from.
Oko, and oftentimes blue-green decks are going to reach for Dismember somewhere in the 75.
Right.
All right, Windswept Heath and second Blighted Agent.
Yep, and she has a Windswept Heath up to potentially play one of those protection spells in the case of Dismember, or one of the counter spells in the case of something like Engineered Explosives. Because Engineered Explosives on X = 2 right now is pretty brutal. But if Dwyer has the Spell Pierce or one of those sideboard cards, it could be good enough to get the job done next turn.
Right, Boblet goes and finds Forest with Sakura Tribe Elder.
That is not the body language of a man who is in control of the game. I think Trying to figure out the best way to win if Dwyer has nothing, but that's just a guess.
Summoner's Pack from Evil Titan. Gotta imagine that there's a Castle Garenbrig in hand.
Oh, yeah. Castle
Garenbrig.
Garenbrig.
A lot of
so
those
good.
castles this weekend.
It's so good, and it pairs so perfectly with Primeval Titan, you know? That's one of the sicker aspects of it. You know, I tried to do Ulvenwald Hydra in Pioneer just because of how good Castle Garenbrig is. But in that format, it's actually just better to cast the 6-man Eldrazi that exiles 4.
Oblivion Sower.
Oblivion Sower. Oblivion Sower is actually quite strong.
I've been smushed by that card.
That card is a house. Not only is it just like a 5/8, but sometimes your opponent delves a bunch of lands away with a Gurmag Angler.
And before they banned Feudal of the Dead, you saw a lot of Oblivion Sowers in the 75s of those decks.
Yep.
And kind of during that era, I was kind of maligning just how many horrible standards Pioneers made up out of. Just all the cast triggers, World Breaker.
Yeah. That's just one deck.
Yeah. It's like the Titan's going to find Blast Zone. In theory, that could catch up with Blighted Agent. I'm not optimistic about that.
You would think.
I'm not optimistic.
It's also funny the Simic Growth Chamber is making it a little awkward for Feel the Dead. Doesn't get a zombie this turn. But I don't know how much that's going to matter since these Blighted Agents are unblockable. Now, if Marie Dwyer here doesn't get a kill next turn, though, Bobit still has to pay for the Summoner's Pact. And then probably can't cast something like Crater of Behemoth. I'm not sure if he has it in his list. Let me double check. Some play it, some don't. I'm a huge fan of the Crater of Behemoth. Doesn't look like it. 4 Titan, 1 Ramming Up Excavator, 1 Tracker, and then the mana creatures. So
Pretty far off paying for Pact plus Hoofin.
yeah, a lot more fair than I would like. Oh, I love that Odyssey Plains. Or, sorry, the Odyssey Forest. That's an Avon, I believe. The light in the background of the forest shining through the trees.
It's a nice one.
They reprinted it a couple times in core sets. Doesn't
Yeah.
have that same sheen on it as the foil Odyssey one, though.
The old border is just nice on it.
It is. Here we go. Can we hit it? Pendlehaven here.
Currently easy access to 3, in effect.
Yep. And it's 3 no matter if she attacks with 1 or 2.
Right. So just 1.
I feel like she has a Blossoming Defense in hand, and it's just like just a +2/+2, right? Just playing. Don't want to just burn it right now.
Right, so Boblet to 6 poison. Things keep going the way they are. He'll get another turn after this one. We'll see if there's something like Blossoming Defense. You might see Dwyer just fire that off because it would be lethal next turn.
Right.
And yeah, the thing about the Field of the Dead Zombies, they're very good at a battlefield that's about attrition, but Blighted Agent's more about sneaking by and killing you.
Yeah, Blighted Agent to me was always the card that really put Infect over the top. I played quite a bit with Infect when it was in Standard. There was a mono green variant, and Rancor was even legal at the same time in Standard. And it was really powerful because of that evasion that Rancor gave. But your opponent could always like trade off in combat and eventually run you out of creatures. Blighted Agent, just a monster when combined with all of these other effects.
Primeval Titan attacks, goes and finds second Field of the Dead and a Westvale Abbey. Couple zombies show up.
Should be 4.
Yeah. 2 for each land.
They do see each other entering at the same time, so if you ever search up 2 Field of the Dead with Primeval Titan, they both enter simultaneously, creating, 4 zombies.
They see each other, is how they say it. I believe Titan should connect here, but it's just 6.
This is a really, really tense game because currently Dwyer only has 3 points of Infect coming in. She's going to need one piece of pump off the top to get the job done, or one from hand that she's had all along. Even with that Inkmoth Nexus. I guess no, with the Inkmoth Nexus and the Pendelhaven, it's actually almost enough, actually. Not quite, because of the Arboreal Grazer.
And the reach on the Mighty Grazer. All right, so here's Pendelhaven on Blighted Agent again, and once more, just 3. So it's Inkmoth Nexus and a Glistener Elf. Just some blockers, though.
Oh, no. It's all collapsing. Dwyer here with a draw with only creatures. Not quite able to get the job done. Going to probably end this game 1 infect short unless a miracle happens.
The Blast Zone is now at 2.
The Blast Zone's at 2, but also there are a bunch of creatures for Ormondal, the Promised Prince, to come on in.
Dwyer off at 10 off of that last Primeval Titan hit.
Profane Prince, excuse me. Yeah, the records of the team are covering the battlefield to an extent, and because of the Field of Dead triggers, I'm actually unsure how many zombies that Bobit has access to.
Talaria West will be transmuted. This is kind of one of the weaknesses of Infect, is drawing multiple creatures. If your opponent's not killing the first one, it's often just very bad for you.
Right.
Any of these is just a pump spell, and the game's already over.
Oh, for sure. And that's kind of the downside of a deck like it. You know, you just...
Infect, pump spell, and infect creature, adventure creature when.
Okay.
Modern Horizons 2, can we get that?
Sure, why not? So he makes 2 zombies with the Ghost Quarter, sacrifices 5 creatures, activates Ormondal, attacks with everybody. He's going to make a bunch more zombies. Because of the Primeval Titan having Trample and the Ghost Quarter on the Inkmoth Nexus, this is probably a lethal attack.
Looks like it ought to be.
But, it all depends on what that last card is in Dwyer's hand.
If it was a pump spell, you got to figure the game would be over.
Right.
It's like
Just not really sure what it can be. Maybe a Dismember?
Dismember only gains 1 life.
Sure. Just trying to think of what it would be to just be in her hand this long, not be cast. Has to be a land or a reactive spell. Can't be a pump spell.
So Ormondal and Primeval Titan coming across. Animate on Inkmoth Nexus. Ghost Quarters fired off on that.
There it is.
That's going to do it. Just another land in Dwyer's hand. So it's going to be the first match recorded in this set here. Zach Boblet, 2-1 over Hillary Dwyer. And we're going to check in for the first time on Holden Wolfe versus Frank Skarren. This is Devoted Devastation against Golgari Yawgmoth. This is a deck that's been getting some buzz on Magic Online and over on Twitter.
Yeah, I know Tom the Boss Ross has been picking up and playing it on his stream lately. You should check out his stream if you haven't. The Boss is always entertaining, always a good time. This Yawgmoth deck, I played it a couple times when it first came out on Magic Online, and it was cool. But we'll see how it's faring here against Devoted Devastation. This looks pretty terrifying.
This battlefield's a mess. So let's take a look at what players have. Frank Skarren, Dryad Arbor, Yawgmoth, Strangler with Geist, Blood Artist, Young Wolf, Wall of Writs. So a sacrifice outlet, a couple of creatures that come back, and a Blood Artist. And then for Holden Wolfe, he has Shalai, Voice of Plenty, which means that the Yawgmoth can only go for the Shalai at the current time. Some Giver of Runes, some Noble Hierarchs, Ranger Captain of Eos, an Oko, slightly off screen, and a food token. Looks like the Sly is getting shrunk, and now we have life totals. Wolfe's at 18, Skarren's at 9.
I was wondering what the problem is, and the problem is that Blood Artist targets an opponent, I think. But Skarren actually has the combo rolled up in play. I think he just needs to be able to kill the Shalai in order to actually have it. Because he could sack a Stranglergeist to target the young Wolf and vice versa and go back and forth forever. The Blood Artist here can't deal the damage, I believe, because Shalai gives Wolf hexproof.
It's like a wall of roots being thrown at the Shalai. Skarren draws a card. Yawgmoth is not quite as impressive as Urza, but does have a lot of text. Mm-hmm. So you pay a life, sacrifice a creature, give a creature -1/-1, draw a card.
At least the combo's cleaner.
True.
I feel like there's a little bit of a missed opportunity for Yawgmoth to sack a creature for a black mana. That feels more classic Yawgmoth style. But the ability is... This might be like this is definitely like a transformation Yawgmoth where he's just like an evil scientist.
Well, I think they actually just wanted to span eras because the last ability involves proliferating.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the idea is like you could put a -1/- counter things and then proliferate the counters. Right, so now Shalai is down. Enough stuff has been sacrificed.
I think now we just have Frank Skarren symboled combo.
Yeah, so Undying is a keyword that when a creature with Undying dies, you return to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter if it did not have one when it died. Here's 2 Undying creatures. Yawgmoth lets you put a -1/-1 counter on the creature. When you sacrifice one back and forth, the counters cancel each other out. You get to keep doing that. It costs you a life off a Yawgmoth, but you get that right back off the Blood Artist, and the Blood Artist actually just kills your opponent.
Right. It's a very clean combo, and when you combine it with the consistency of things like Once Upon a Time, Collect a Company, and Court of Calling, you actually can assemble the combo rather quickly, even though it's basically a 3-creature, sometimes even 4-creature combo. The cool part is that Yawgmoth is just busted. So, you just sometimes get to play a Yawgmoth on turn 3, sack 2 mana creatures to kill 2 of your opponent's creatures and draw 2 cards. You know, that's pretty good, too.
You know what my favorite ability on Yawgmoth is?
I'm going to go with Human.
Protection from humans.
Oh?
You can't Reflector Mage it.
And you can't target itself.
True.
So that's irrelevant because the creature, because you can always target the creature you're sacrificing. So that's weird.
So we're back on Manfield versus Conn. This will be the decider here. This is game number 3. A little more Pure Steel Paladin action. Looks like there's already a couple Shrams in Manfield's graveyard. He's making land drop number 4. Has no Paladin effects. This is probably not where he wants to be.
Yep, but Conn doesn't have any pressure on the battlefield. He's had a couple of discard spells to strip Manfield's hand, but still digging for one of those creatures to be able to start chopping down that 18 points of life.
Conn's going to use a Mishra's Bobit to look at the top card of his deck. Has a Polluted Delta uncracked and a Breeding Pool. And I think a 6-card hand, 5 or 6.
Yeah, a lot of cards in hand, but notably hasn't played more than the 2 lands. Hasn't played any creatures, so it makes sense that his hand would be full. Though, in my guess is that it's just full of spot removal, you know. Maybe a couple more discard spells, and Seth's just been empty-handed at the end of every turn, basically.
Could be Stubborn Denial. Looks like saw a Fatal Push at the front there. Fetches to 9 for Watery Grave.
Recently, I cracked one of those Nurturing Peatlands as well. See if we have like a Traverse the Ulvenwald here, maybe. There it is. It's going to get a thick Death Shadow.
One would imagine. That one can for sure be deployed this turn, and there it is. Just a 4/4. We know how quickly that changes, though.
Oh, for sure. Deck is so full of ways to deal itself damage. The mana base alone. That Death Shadow should be a 2-turn clock, unless Conn just has it wrapped up with all the spells in hand. And then even if it's a 3-turn clock, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
4-turn clock, now we're talking. We did say that this was probably one of Seth's worst matchups in the field.
It's a rough pull. Game 1 was interesting as Manfield didn't have to deal that much damage. So I think I'd make the argument that you'd rather play against Shadow than like regular Jund.
Yeah, the shields are down right now, though. Conn has tapped out, basically, to cast this Death Shadow. So if Manfield drew one of those creatures, which it looks like he may have, this might be a really complex turn. And he could potentially win this turn. That's just the nature of his deck.
All right, let's go. Let's see something big.
He's reaching for 3. This might be a Monastery Mentor. And if he has a handful of those 0-mana artifacts, he can make a very wide battlefield while those shields are down from Conn. I think you would obviously rather have one of the draw card creatures, but with 2 of those gone, not that many.
It's going to be a quarter shield reverse engineer.
That's fine. That's a fine turn.
Looks like there's a retract in the hand. He's going to play a Hallowed Fountain tapped. Get that a quarter shield out of the lands. That one's not making mana.
But it is getting tapped for mana, kind of. Man, Reverse Engineer is such an underutilized card. How is that card not just in every Oko Goose deck in Modern, right? Like, that deck just has to be unbelievable for them to not play Reverse Engineer.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen Emery? Have you heard about that?
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's ludicrous.
Yeah, they have a deep cast of busted figures.
Yeah, they all recently started incorporating Archmage's Charm, which I love.
That card's very good. Very underrated card.
Agree. First time I played that Is It Delver deck in Modern, I was in love.
I bet you lost a lot by casting Delver and won a lot by casting Archmage's Charm.
It was actually one of the best Delver decks I've ever played in Modern. And as someone who's played, well, I was going to say a bad word, as someone who's played a boatload of Delver in Modern, even though I know it's bad, that was one of the first Delver decks where I thought it was actively good.
Sure.
It wasn't legacy good, but it was still good. I think it would actually be fine right now just because a lot of the interaction in the format is actually counterspell based. And as a Delver player, I love playing his counterspells.
Oh yeah.
Just dancing circles around them. You ever heard of this thing called Initiative? I got it because I played a creature on turn 1. Nice counterspells, bud.
So Traverse the Ovenwald for Conn's going to find a fetch land, going to find a shock land. So you should be at 6 now, which means this attack was for 7.
Yeah, and I should put Manfield down to 11. So not quite dead next turn, but with a little help, Conn could potentially win next turn. Manfield here going to need to start building up a battlefield one way or another.
Well, if he has that mentor that he kind of signaled last turn, and there it is, could really make some blockers.
Yeah, I'm curious here if Conn's going to get really punished. You know, we saw the 3-mana tap last turn, right? We knew, and because we knew the deck list, we knew Mentor was coming, and Conn just wanted to turn on the extra damage from Death Shadow. But right now, Fatal Push doesn't kill Monastery Mentor because that fetch land's not there. He might have Dismember. Dismember could get the job done here in response. There it is.
Yeah, that is Dismember, but that's messy.
It is messy, but he does have that Fatal Push in hand too, so he can kill the token that the Monastery Mentor generates, or can potentially kill the follow-up creature that's going to try to combo him out in a turn.
So Conn to 2 off of that. Manfield has not let it resolve just yet. He has a Retract in hand.
Yeah, he has Retract to get another token is the thing. And so he's going to get a second token.
Yeah, so the net's still on the stack, but the shield will be picked up and a token will be made. Well, a token will be made. We'll see if Conn's going to like stubborn denial this. It'll be a little odd though.
Yeah. I think you just let him return the artifact, right? Like,
right. Can't flash it in.
I mean, you can't take it with you, though, so maybe keeping him from return it to hand might change things. It's not like Manfield's going to get something haste and attack for 2, right?
If you had like 2 Gurmag Anglers in hand, just putting a card in your graveyard can matter. But I think his hand is all interaction.
Right, but that's kind of why I like playing the Summoner now, just because you don't know. The game is not likely over next turn. So maybe it is worth just holding on to the Summoner now. That's fair.
I think he has forced action on Fatal pushing the token here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so Quarter Shield comes back. Dismember resolves. You get another Monk token. Now, Manfield needs to figure out what to do with the rest of this turn. If it's just pass, he can survive for a little bit.
Well, it was just pass. And we'll see if the claim you just made is true. Because I think 2 Fatal Push just kills him.
He's at 11.
And Conn's at 2.
What are you trying to say?
Trying to say that Fatal Pushing 2 monks and attacking for 11 would be a lethal.
Oh, he dealt himself 4 damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Never mind. That's what it was.
I wasn't sure if you were messing with me.
No, I'm sorry.
It's that math thing we were talking about.
Look, on Magic Online, everything already is the number it's supposed to be. Okay? You can't get mad at me for being stupid. That's what Twitter's for.
Well, Twitter's just for getting mad at you. You don't have to be stupid.
That's true. All right, well, he did fetch to 1, so this feels like double removal spell attack for the win. Let's see.
And then leaving up Summer Denial through the end step in case of Path to Exile. So there's 2 Fatal Push.
Yep.
And I think we're about to see a lethal attack.
Attack for 12. There it is.
Alexander Conn is going to win it for his team. Conn, Bobit, and Wolfe 2-1 over Manfield, Dwyer, and Skarren.